that will be championing for producers to have extended responsibility when it comes to managing waste in the country. Well, right now I'm joined by one of my guests. We are expecting another guest coming up in a short while, and that is from the Ministry of Environment. But right about now, we want to get into our discussion, and we have with us Simone Andersson, the Chief Commercial Officer at We Center. Thank you for joining us on the program. We're also expecting Mr. Miner from the Ministry of Environment to give us his perspectives into this. Perhaps let me just get into our first area of focus. And Simone, a big conversation coming at a very timely time for the country and, of course, the globe. A number of concerns have been raised around how countries are preparing to handle electronic waste. Where are we as a country and as a continent?
Well, thank you, and thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure. Where we are in the country right now when it comes to electronic waste is we're on the move, but we have lots to do. According to the global e-waste report last year, there is more than 51,000 tons e-waste laying around in the country per year, and it's even increasing. So we are barely taking care of 1% of that as of now.
Quite startling numbers there. Perhaps talk to us about how is the regulatory framework in regards to combating electronic waste, and what really has been the experience you've had so far operating in Kenya for a number of years?
Well, yes, we've been operating since 2012, but since the regulatory framework is not very specific and the awareness is also extremely low, we have a lot to do on both communication and awareness raising together with now what will come with the producers and the authorities.
All right.
Still, sorry.
Sorry, I interjected, but please, you can finish on your point.
Still, though, there are environmental laws to follow, and when it comes to hazardous waste, etc. So we do have a regulatory framework to stick onto, and we also have a strategy for e-waste since 2010.
All right. Well, Simone, all this comes on the backdrop of the extended producer responsibility. Talk to us about this. What will this mean going forward, especially where we are looking at a very critical transition where we'll be putting the producers to squarely have a responsibility when it comes to managing e-waste?
For sure, and it will definitely help transition us to a circular economy in a faster manner and in a safer manner. The producer responsibility, the idea is, of course, for the producers to become responsible for their products, not only in the sales moment, but also when it reaches the end of its current life, and take care of it in a safe manner from there, and also inform the public and everyone about what to do with it. This leads to wanting to create quality products so that they can easily be repaired and be reused, etc. So we will prolong the lives, which leads into a more circular way of handling the things. Those are some of the features.
All right. And Simone, I'd like you to hold your thoughts. We actually have our other guest who has just joined us, Isaiah Miner, who is from the Ministry of Environment, and he holds a very important docket, and this is of Education for Sustainable Development. Thank you, Mr. Miner, for joining us on the program. And as we proceed, just give us a quick snapshot in regards to the EPR, that is the Extended Producer Responsibility. How will this impact on how we run affairs when it comes to driving Kenya into a circular economy?
Okay, thank you, Agina, for having me in the show today. I would like to start by saying that the EPR will be a paradigm shift. It is a kind of undertaking that will change many things. in the way we do business, but we are looking here at the question of environmental sustainability. We are also looking at having green and inclusive economic growth. So because of all that, and we also realize that the resources that are available to us as a nation and as a planet are limited and finite. So what it means is that this extended producer responsibility will force all of us to look at how we are doing, how we are producing, how we are consuming, and how we manage these resources.
Yes.
When they get to the point where we are thinking that the first user does not need it anymore, and it does not mean that when it reaches that point that it is now waste or taka-taka, as we normally say. It is still useful, it is still valuable, and if we are able to loop that, and we have a lot of loops before we get to a point where we are saying that something is supposed to be discarded, then we are going to improve so much in terms of our productivity, in terms of our efficiency, and we will also reduce on pollution.
Okay. And speaking about reducing pollution, we are moving into a circular economy. Help our viewers understand, what does this really mean? Because we have the people, we have the planet, and people want to make profits.
Let me start by saying that we have been circular for a very long time. I think probably it is a recent development that our lifestyle has changed and forced us to become people who like convenience. Previously, quite a number of nations and so on, particularly even in Africa, we've been fairly circular. And when you are circular, it does not mean that you're probably leaving out profits. It does not mean that you are becoming any less profitable. Actually, what it means is that we will use the resources that we already have now in a more efficient manner, which means that any other resource that has not been extracted can be let to stay there, because some of the times the only reason why those resources, the extraction of those resources, what is normally called the primary raw materials, the only reason why they become viable economically is because of the not factoring the cost of environmental damage.
Okay. Interesting, and I'd like to get Simone's thoughts on the same.
For sure, thank you. Yeah, I would continue on Mr. Mina's remarks there. And, oh, sorry, looking at him.
It's fine.
Sorry, you left off with what we have been doing here for a long time. Sometimes we think it's something new, but just like you said, it is actually just rethinking how we're doing it and what were we doing before. We repaired, correct? Yeah. So new business models would be, for instance, instead of you buy your fridge and you use it and then you discard it, you lease it, for instance, from someone who is then coming for maintenance, just like you do with your cars today, which also means that fridge would probably have a longer life and it will have better quality products in it, which will also be easier to disassemble for later recovery and recycling when it's due time for that.
All right. So in a way of us wrapping up, Simone, what does the future hold when it comes to a circular economy? What do Kenyans stand to benefit?
Oh, once again, we have, like you also said, for the people, the planet, the profit, we have so much to gain with the resources coming back to us instead of just going to waste as it is right now and being hazardous to the environment, for the people also, instead being a gain for us. So with the extended producer responsibility, I'm sure we're going to get a good coordination of this. We're going to get a good end of user's life experience that will actually go back and forth many times, and then the end recycling. So it's a brilliant future for Kenya in this.
All right. We're going to go on a quick commercial break. We'll be, of course, revisiting this conversation and looking at what do the Kenyan people stand to benefit when it comes to understanding the circular economy, where you can actually make money by being part of this. We have much more coming up on the other side of the break. Benefit out of this circularity that is being preached left, right, and center. What would you say to them?
Okay, thank you, Abby. For that person, for that young man in Kariako, I would like to say that, you see, what we are doing by bringing in the concept of circularity, and from the onset, let me clarify that Africa, as it were, is still quite circular in many other ways. And you see, what we are trying to do at the moment is to industrialize. And so probably what we could say is that if we were able to adopt the circularity concept as early as possible, we can avoid the pitfalls that our brothers and sisters in the developed world have had to undergo. So the idea is that if we are able to have as many loops as possible, closing the loops, the material loops, and we're saying we keep them in the value chain for the longest time possible, then that gives opportunities for all of us to be in a position to take part, right from the production all the way to when you're bringing back the materials into, you know, so that you make them into secondary raw materials. We will not be going back for virgin material. Instead, we'll be using whatever we have now and maximizing that. So that gives an opportunity, an immense opportunity for all the young people and any other entrepreneur who wishes to take part in management. And when we talk about management here, it's not as if it is a problem. It's because it is a valuable resource. Mm-hmm. Let's not consider it as if somebody was dealing with a menace. It is a resource. And so because we need to keep these resources in the best kind of condition possible. The problem begins when we mix them up and you have a situation where there is contamination. Yeah. But otherwise, if these materials are kept separate, and we are talking here about probably what we call the organics and the technical materials, including machines and what have you, if we are able to keep those apart, and if we are also able to avoid the use of hazardous materials in our products, then every one of us, including that person in Kariako, will have an opportunity to participate in the immense openings that will come into play.
All right. And bringing it back home, I'd like to get your closing thoughts as well in regards to 5 years down the line. If we'll have gotten it right when it comes to circularity, what does it mean for the continent? And also, what does it mean really for the country?
Yes, actually it will represent a very big win for us. Particularly so when we look at the global perspective, we are looking at competitive products. And these products that are produced in a clean, environmentally friendly ways. And so what we are seeing is that if we are able to get it right, and you know, the world is becoming more sensitive about how we use energy, right, about how we pollute the environment, about how we create good quality jobs. So even when it comes to that person in Kariako and you're dealing with probably recycling, maybe repairing, maybe repurposing, all that must be dignified. It must be the kind of job, the work that gives somebody a dignified existence, a good income. So if we were to get right, first of all, even for the country, whatever materials we have with us, we would reduce the need to import. Like right now, we import quite a bit of raw materials, even including for probably metallic, the steel, and all of you. But we have quite a bit that is around the country today. And so you can imagine the kind of advantages we would have if we are using whatever we have within the country.
Interesting. And Simone, your closing thoughts as we look towards going this route, what lies in the balance?
I agree with Mr. Mina. The opportunities of what we would call urban mining, instead of taking the materials from the earth, we take them from the society. That is a great opportunity, of course. I also see the opportunities of now when we start collaborating much more, and I am looking forward to see all the initiatives putting forward in research and development, innovative ideas of how to collect in a better way, how to handle and logistically take care of these things along the way, and then of course innovative ways of recycling or reusing it before we recycle. So it's both the technical parts, but also, like we said, we have this people in the People, Planet and Profit, where we need to take care of everything from the informal sector and come up with innovative business models that are given a win-win-win for all parts, even the environment. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and I'm sure in a 5-year time we will have gotten it straight. We are determined to be part of it, so yeah.
All right, looking forward to seeing how this pans out, of course, in the coming months and years. If my director will allow me, we'll want to give you a story about one of the richest men in the country, and actually in the globe, and that is Jeff Bezos, who took to a very interesting mission, and space company Blue Origin and Amazon founder Jeff Bezos rocketed to space with the world's oldest and youngest people to ever fly in space